Good morning. In my ninth grade history classes, we spend a great deal of time discussing customs, traditions, and the roles they play in society. Often these rituals become so ingrained and routine that we perform them without so much as a second thought. For example, it is customary at the beginning of a sermon for the speaker to thank his candlelighters, his readers, and of course, Mr. Clark. I would like to pause for a moment and reflect on that before we let it recede into our fuzzy collective memory. Mr. Clark isn't here today with us, but he did indeed help me fine-tune the text of this sermon. I'm certainly grateful for that. But what stands out to me is the genuine care, careful attention, and love Mr. Clark brings to every author, to every sermon, and to every chapel service. Doubtless Mr. Clark has read his share of sermons. Nevertheless, he still made time for me, sat down with me, and made me feel that what I had was special and that it was important to him. Through Mr. Clark, I felt special and loved, and that's what I would like to thank him for. Originally, this chapel was scheduled for Valentine's Day, and it's fitting since the theme of this sermon is love. It occurs to me that I'm probably not the first faculty member that comes to mind when you think of love or that very pink holiday. Nevertheless, I promise, if you hear me out and you stay with me, it'll all make sense in the end. I really like wearing beanies in the winter. Of course, they protect my head from the elements, but they also prevent heat from escaping. I've noticed that on a cold, humid morning, the kind that shrouds cars in frost, steam escapes from my head like a hot, steaming ham in a freezer box. I guess it's fitting that a history teacher should give off a lot of hot air. We shower students with seemingly unreal events from the past, mixed in with a touch of editorial, a pinch of passion, a teaspoon of trivia, and maybe even a speck of spit in the mix. For me, there's also been a healthy dose of cynicism. Some of you may remember that almost 4 years ago, I addressed the freshmen, now seniors, and proclaimed my cynicism. I confidently decried all who took an optimistic approach to life as unrealistic and mildly delusional. This fearful defense of my worldview took on a tone of self-righteousness, capped by erudite references to Greek philosophers and fancy words like erudite. There I was in God's temple, playing God and trying to convince others of my righteousness. Little did I know, like the then freshman, I was about to embark on a spiritual journey of my own. Even at the time of that sermon, I was keenly aware of the demon that sat in my audience. My demon wasn't red. He didn't have horns. He didn't carry a pitchfork. He had accompanied me for most of my adult life, and he had come to know me very well. He was quiet, unobtrusive. He blended into the crowd and was often difficult for others to see. I hated him. I refused to believe he existed, and I refused to look him squarely in the eye. He went by many names: sadness, melancholy, the blues, malaise. I simply called him discontent. Though I experienced moments of joy and laughter, for some time my soul had been hard and cold. My entire life I had strived, climbed, clawed, thought about tomorrow, blamed the past, and never thought of today. My cynicism served to justify my anger at life, my resentment of circumstances, and my self-pity over the bad hand life had dealt me. The man messed me up. Middle school bullies messed me up. This one stood in my way, and that one wouldn't let me get what I wanted. I was persecuted, paralyzed, misunderstood, and filled with self-righteous indignation. My cynicism relieved me of any responsibility for the demon I had created and provided a worldview that justified his existence. I channeled this cynicism into my love of history, attraction to tragic historical figures, and the long, plodding, often dreary songs of the band Pink Floyd. All in all, these were bricks in my wall. Now, change doesn't come easily. Indeed, for the cynic, change is a thing most unwelcome. Channeling Mr. Klaus's second annual holiday chapel service, I too braced with fear and trepidation when confronted with change. In fact, in my life, I've tried to avoid it at all costs. My demon couldn't stand change. I liked what I knew what I liked, and wanted to keep it that way. Sure, I could change little things here and there. A different job title, a new lesson, maybe even a new haircut. But this cynic was hardened in his views, and those views could never and would never change. And then, like a hot iron rod falling on a clueless scoop of vanilla ice cream, my marriage ended last spring. The hammer came down, the bottom fell out, and my demon got up to dance. Thus began a new chapter in my life. I've titled it Duck and Cover, or Dark Night of the Soul. Though the spring break should have been a welcome respite from the chaos of school, I dreaded the end of school. I had elected to take the summer off and spend it with my family. Unfortunately, I got my wish. No summer plans lined up, and my life a train wreck. I braced for the victory of my demon and the inevitable breakdown to follow. So one feature of my cynicism was an utter disbelief in God. Sure, I suspected that there was a higher power, but most of the time I had faith that every aspect of life could be boiled down to cold, hard science. Body and mind. No heart, no soul. I had faith to be sure. Faith in myself, faith in what I could touch, faith that people were inherently evil, and faith in the correctness of my worldview. But now I had hit bottom. All I had done, how I had lived my life, my cynicism, it had all failed me. I laid on my back, bruised and beaten, like the vanquished bully in a Popeye cartoon. I had a simple choice to make: oblivion or redemption. I would like to say that I chose the latter, but I've come to believe something very different. Redemption chose me. As he had so many times in my life, without my realizing it, God came to me in a very unexpected form. It did not appear to me in a vision or through a burning bush. My God did not wear a long white beard. He did not wield a thunderbolt. In fact, God came to me, through a very small person who wore a diaper and loved to drink milk from a sippy cup. There, laying on my back amid the charred ruins of a failed marriage, I recognized God in my love for my son Oliver and his love for me. Since then, my days have changed radically. Without question, the most precious minutes of the day are spent practicing the customs and traditions that revolve around Oliver's bedtime. Every night, Oliver and I put on our jammies, brush our teeth, sometimes take a bath, and read at least 3 books. Oliver sits on my lap and turns the pages, giggling happily while I tickle him. I love to ask him who I am and watch his face light up when he triumphantly replies, "Dada." There, sitting with my son, rocking back and forth, tickling him and hearing his laugh, I feel the deepest love of all. I call this God. Now I return to you. Rather than declaring my cynicism, I offer my humility. Rather than defending a pessimistic way of living, I bring a message of hope and love. It would be premature to declare mission accomplished on the task of rebuilding my life and ridding myself of that demon. But I know where to start. I know what love is, and I know that love is the foundation of this new chapter, not fear and not cynicism. I know that no matter how hard you plan and how hard you might try, life is unpredictable. Make the most of it. Live for today and now, not for tomorrow, not for 10 years from now, not for college, for now. God is real. God is love, and love can and will conquer fear. Finally, remember that just like baby Oliver, each one of you is an angel in your parents' eyes. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter whether you succeed. It doesn't really matter if you fail. You are who you are, and you are loved. We love you through and through.